Good evening. Welcome to another Reef Talk, sponsored by Malama Kai Foundation and hosted by Terraformation and Arizona State University. My name is Kater Heine with Malama Kai Foundation. Just a reminder always that Malama Kai Foundation was established in 1991 to enhance marine and coastal protection in Hawaii through education, outreach, and support of community-based resources, management for current and future generations. We work with the Day-Use Mooring Buoy program, Ridge to Reef program, and obviously these wonderful monthly Reef Talks. And thank you for your continued support and attending. As you can imagine, donations are greatly appreciated. There is a donation jar as well as a QR code if you feel so inclined. I have the great pleasure tonight of introducing Hanna with Wai Ola. So we are very excited to hear about the upcoming programs and what Wai Ola is working on. Hanna Puentes. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Oh, am I okay?
Yes.
Close enough? Cool. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for coming tonight. Can I be honest? Can we have a quick moment before we get started? It's such a small group, so we'll make it cozy. You guys ever had one of those days where things kind of go awry in a way that's almost like a sitcom comedy? Everything starts to go wrong.
Of course.
You know what I mean, right? You're like rushing out the door and then your belt loop gets stuck on the door or something like that. I've kind of been having one of those months, it feels like. And the reason I'm telling you all this is because what a treat it is to be here right now, you know? This lovely, gorgeous building with these kind faces. And I get to tell you guys about some cool stuff that we do. It's like a treat, you know? It's like a nice little break after getting the belt loop of life stuck on the door. So I want to mahalo Malama Kai Foundation, of course, and Kater for coordinating these events, these lovely Reef Talks, what a wonderful program. And then I want to mahalo all of you guys as well for being such well-informed and involved community members. So go ahead and just give everyone a quick pat on the back. And then while I'm doing my mahalos, I'll just slide over to this screen real quick. We usually start with this at a lot of our talks, so I'm going to tell you all about Wai Ola. First and foremost, though, I can tell you that we are a community partnership program. And please let me know if I'm shouting or anything, or if you can't hear me. But we are a community partnership program, so we are supported by a wide spread of wonderful community partners. So you can see all of our partners right up here, and there might be some familiar names on this screen. We have, like I said, kind of a nice spread. We work with government organizations, NGOs, and different groups. Of course, NELHA. We run our samples actually just right down the road from here. So my last mahalo for now will be for all of our wonderful partners that you see here on the screen. And so I'm going to get quite into it with Wai Ola. So we'll go over everything about the program, but first I'll start with our mission, vision, and values. And so the reason Wai Ola was created was to improve Hawaii Island's coastal waters, and we do that through science, communication, and collaboration. Our vision is that waters across Hawaii County, Mokuokeawe, are thriving within the communities that honor that interconnectivity we have to the Aina. And then our values you can see down here, we're based in Hanna Puentes, Ho'okele, Laulima, and Ho'oka'ana. So before I kind of get into the nitty-gritty with our program details, we'll just do a quick science lesson. I'm sure we're all well-versed in this already, but being in the state of Hawaii, and particularly in Hawaii County, our big uphill battle out here is sanitation, right? So you can see up on the screen, I have a little number for you guys. So we have the most cesspools across the state here on Hawaii Island, with about 71% of the population currently unsewered. So about 71% of the population is on some sort of wastewater system like a septic tank or cesspool. And then of course we have a couple other primary impactors to water quality that we see again across the state and in the mainland. So that's going to be things like agricultural runoff, urban and residential runoff, climate change, which goes hand in hand with ocean acidification. And then here in particular, we have quite a bit of fishing, and then actually very specific to West Hawaii, especially like in Pu'uko, South Kohala, is coastal development, right? I'm not sure how long everybody has been here, but if you've been here for more than 15 years, then you've probably seen Pu'uko change quite a bit in that time. And so some of the ways that we work as a community to minimize these impacts are by supporting updating wastewater infrastructure, sustainable land use practices, and then of course public engagement, education. Sanitation might not be the most glamorous, but it is very important to the health of our coastal waters, so we love to talk about it. And this is where Wai Ola comes in, right? So just a little bit of background on coastal water quality in the state. This is typically something that falls under the Department of Health Clean Water branch. And so they do have a monitoring team that is active on Hawaii Island. They are notoriously, understaffed and under-resourced. They have a 2-employee team doing water quality across the entire island. So we created a solution. We created Wai Ola, which is a community-based monitoring program. And I'm going to talk a little bit more in the next slides about what quality assurance is and how we work with the Department of Health in doing so. But our goals with Wai Ola are to increase community capacity for long-term monitoring. So in short, we monitor regularly, it's once a month, at 16 sites currently across the island. And we do this to develop a database for monitoring and decision-making. Again, you'll see this word coming up a lot. It's quality assured, and I will talk a little bit more about that in the next slides. But it essentially means that we are working with the Department of Health to be up to their standard of methodology. And then a big component of our program is to empower community. So we rely a lot, like I said, on our community partners and our community volunteer program. And our goal is really to provide the tools that individual community groups need to monitor the health of their community's water. So what is a quality assured program, or QAP? That is our quality assured project plan, and that was developed in tandem with the Department of Health, again, to bring us under their umbrella of methodology and standards. And so that means that all of our active testing sites meet the minimum requirements for state reporting. So we share our data with the Department of Health biannually. They have a statewide integrated water quality report. So lots of fun information in there if you guys are looking for more reports to read through. It's a statewide report for everyone who does water quality monitoring. And it also means that our regional coordinators who do our sampling, as well as our community volunteers that support our sampling, are all quality assured under the Department of Health's methodology. So this has allowed us to collect nearly 5 years now of baseline data at our 16 sites where we've been sampling. And this data is what allows us to support targeted environmental policy change. So one of the things that we do as well is support clean water bills that come through our capital every year. So, like I mentioned, we're currently measuring water quality at 16 sites across Hawaii County, so across Hawaii Island. I have just a couple maps to breeze through with you guys. Let me know. We're doing questions and answers after, yeah?
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Sounds good. So we'll save any questions and answers for later, but this is a snapshot of our Keaukaha coastline. So for anybody who isn't already familiar, This right here is Richardson's Beach Park, and then all the way over here we have Coconut Island. So we sample at all these sites in Hilo. That's going to be Richardson's, Carl Smith, Kuki Bay, Reeves Bay, and then Coconut Island. Looking at our South Kohala site, this is very Puako heavy. So in South Kohala, we start at Hapuna. We have 2 sites at Hapuna, north and south. We also sample at Beach 69, Wailea Bay. Again, it's 2 sites, kind of north and south, about 40, 50 feet from each other. Then we head down the coast. We go to what is commonly known as Secrets Beach, right across from that Octagon church.
Excuse me, that rotated 90 degrees. Which way is north?
Oh, yes, it did. So north is going to be
That way.
pointing this way. Right, so we're kind of looking at the coastline from Mauka. And then this is Paniao, so this is going to be the Mauna Lani over in this corner. Yeah, great question. And then same thing over here. North is going to be kind of facing up here. This is our Kona region, which is exclusively within Kahilihili Bay, and so there's about 5 sampling sites starting from the point over here and working down across to the other side of the bay. And then finally, I have one last map for you guys. You'll notice it's a little bit different, and that's because we're, exciting news, currently in the process of expanding to Kailua-Kona Bay. So we're still onboarding them with kind of some of our materials, but I did develop a more rudimentary map for you guys to look at. This is actually something we used in the development process to identify sites, because they do have different sections of the bay down there. And we are going to start sampling fingers and toes crossed in January at these sites that we've identified. A couple by the Cap statue, down here by the heiau, the boat ramp, and then over here by Manini Beach. And so, how do we measure water quality? What do we look at, right? We use some pretty standard field equipment. Again, this is all quality assured under the Department of Health, so we kind of are playing copycat with what they're doing. We have a turbidometer to look at turbidity, you guessed it. And then we use a Hawk hand meter, and that gives us all of our kind of standard water quality parameters like temperature, salinity, dissolved oxygen, and pH. And then right here you can see what our sample bottles look like. So we collect water samples for nutrients and bacteria, and those are analyzed by our lab partners. At the moment, UH Hilo is closed, so we've been relying really heavily down at the lab down here. Our lovely lab manager, Pam Madden, does all of our samples right now at all of our 16 sites. And for bacteria, we look at Enterococcus, which is a fecal indicator bacteria. And then nutrients, we're currently doing total nitrogen and total phosphorus. We use standardized forms, again, to stay quality assured. And so, you know, for anyone who's scientifically oriented, I'm sure you're familiar with the data form. We have a field data form, calibration, and verification, as well as a chain of custody that goes out with all our forms in the field. And this is standardized across all our regions. We also collect metadata, and this is something we use in our analysis. So we look at things like cloud cover, the tide at the moment, the moon phase, and the wind scale. And I mentioned earlier, but again, so we sample once a month in the same locations at the same time every month. And field sampling always starts in the morning to ensure that we're not getting any high temperatures or any sun affecting our bacteria samples or dissolved oxygen. And we currently do it on a calendar schedule, so it's every 4 weeks. And then what do we do with all this data, right? We have 5 years baseline of all these parameters we've been looking at. So we have a couple of products coming out of this. I can go in here, is that all
Sure.
Okay. Field trip into the dashboard. So we have a data dashboard. Sorry. Oh, I'm not online. Well, something for you guys to explore at home. So this is our data dashboard. If you go to our website, it's this is what you'll see on the home screen here. And you enter our dashboard. We have all of our raw data. It looks like this, and you can go through each of the sites and click and unclick what you're looking at as far as our data indicators. And then we also have temperature over time here. So anybody who's data oriented and likes raw data, this is going to be for you. We also have some analyzed data. So I have a QR code for anyone that's interested in that direct link. Again, it's all on our website. And so here on this page, we have our data analysis report. That's going to be our most comprehensive water quality report. It's about a 40-page document. Also very interesting for those of you who might be data oriented or scientifically oriented. At a slightly higher view, we have our water quality report cards, and so those are done by region. So every year we analyze our data and develop, it's a 3-page front and back packet that details kind of what I'm telling you guys about, where we sample, why we sample, and then we analyze the data and assign grades to kind of make it a little bit more digestible for the average person. And so here's a snapshot of what those things look like. We have our data analysis report. This is kind of a community engagement one-pager. This is our, most general high-level view of our data. And so this is just one page, front and back, and then it has all of our sites and grades assigned in just one quick snapshot. And then these are what our water quality report cards look like. So this again is kind of our assessment scale. And the way we developed that was through our technical advisory group. We had a ton of meetings to figure out, how can we assess water quality in the state. It's not something that's been done before in terms of assigning a grade to different sites. And so we basically got together and decided that since we're quality assured under the Department of Health, it stands to reason that we would use their standards as well. So they do have a 1154 document that outlines all of the standards in the state based on the type of body of water. So they provide thresholds for human health in different sites across the state. And we essentially compared our data to those thresholds and determined the percentage of times our data exceeded those thresholds. So for something to be considered acceptable, that means that in between 80 and 100% of the time, it fell within an acceptable range, right? It means for it to be acceptable, it only fell outside of the acceptable range, like 0 to 20% of the time. So this follows just a standard 20% scale from acceptable to impaired, with impaired being, 80% of the time or more. Our data is showing that it's surpassing the Department of Health's human health threshold. So that's where our little circle diagrams come in, and this is a snapshot of that one-pager front and back that we've developed. And so you can see our different indicators in a quick blurb about what they mean in terms of water quality. And we match up these little guys, our little emojis. So our bacteria is going to be this guy, dissolved oxygen is our little fish. And this way you can take a look real quick and just get an idea of the health of each site we're testing at. So this is our South Kohala sites. You can see like phosphorus is slightly better here than down here. And again, we're just looking at percent exceedances over time. So that's kind of our day-to-day operations. That's the meat and potatoes of Wai Ola. We are sampling monthly across the island and collecting data with these products coming really being the database and the analysis, which is again, it's updated biannually and used to update our report cards and then brought to legislators in January when the Capitol opens. And so we have a couple other components of Wai Ola, and so that's going to be our outreach and training. And that's kind of where I come in more. So we have a very wonderful citizen science program. We have actually a pretty small team within Hawaii Wai Ola, so we couldn't move forward without our volunteers. Our wonderful volunteers do so much for us, and we're eternally grateful for the time that people donate purely out of passion for coastal water and coral restoration. And so here I just have a couple of snapshots from our most recent citizen science program training event. This was again over in South Kohala. We have a wonderful volunteer here. Thank you so much, Anne, for the work you do in Kona. But we do our trainings typically once a year. We host a training in each of our regions, and so we'll train everybody up, and it's, you know, a couple meetings and a field day, and then once that field training is done, we invite our volunteers to come sample with us. And typically we see in like a 4 to 6 month period, they're fully up to speed and helping do our water quality monitoring monthly. And again, we couldn't do it without them. So we really appreciate the support of our citizen science program. This year, upcoming 2026, we're doing a little bit of a helo push. We have a really great group established so far in South Kohala and Kona, of course, and so we kind of have our ground covered on that at the moment, but helo is like our little redheaded orphan child, and we're kind of trying to push some more involvement over there, get some more volunteers going on. So in 2026, we'll actually be hosting 3 trainings at helo specifically, instead of doing one in each of our regions. And I have a QR code for that if anybody's interested in signing up. It's like an email sign up, and then we blast things out as soon as we get the dates. Or if you know anybody on the east side who's interested in this kind of thing. So here's a couple more photos of our training, and then this is that QR code. I'll leave it up for just a moment. And then the other portion of our program is our outreach. And so we participate in quite a bit of community events and public outreach, like this ReefTalk. And we do about 12 community events a year. You know, you'll maybe see us if anybody ever helps out with Auntie Cynthia's beach cleanups down the coast. We also go to things like the Cherry Blossom Festival. We were just at the Waimea Fall Festival last weekend, so that was a really wonderful event. So this is kind of, you know, this is kind of what we look like. If you see us out and about, come say hi, don't be shy. We have some cool information from our partners, as well as, you know, information that all the same stuff I'm telling you guys today. You know, how to sign up, how to volunteer, and how to get involved. Just a couple more photos of some outreach we did in 2025 so far. This over here was it's called Radio on the Mauna. They did a concert for kids down in Ka'u in Na'aleku. And so we got invited to do some kicky activities with them. It was really great. And then over here is our Waikoloa Charity Walk, which is another really wonderful event I'm sure you guys are familiar with. But we do go there, actually with the support of Moamakai Foundation. And so that is essentially our entire program. We do the water quality sampling, we produce those open source data, as well as the analysis and the report cards. And then we have our citizen science trainings and our outreach. And I'm sorry, I haven't kept track of time at all, but that's all I got for you guys. So this is any questions and answers, yeah, please.
I'd like to know the quality of the water.
The results.
Right, yeah. So we have, I would really recommend digging into our data analysis report. Some of the results I think are surprising, right? One of the things with our analysis is that we use thresholds for human health, and of course thresholds for coral health are a lot lower. So when we see things like these green bacteria circles, we're talking about human health and not necessarily the level at which coral start to get affected. Again, it's so hard to assign a grade, and I don't want to make any generalized statements. So please do read the analysis, but we typically see things, we haven't seen any upward trends yet in terms of things improving, I'll put it that way.
Is there any plan to expand further south?
Yes, definitely. So currently we're working with Kailua-Kona to start sampling over there, and then we're hoping to expand southward, more towards Milili'i, and then also on the other side of South Point in Ka'u at Honolulu and kind of in that area. Currently, Milili'i's got a strong footing in there. They have Greg Asner guys who are doing sampling, so they do have a hold on water quality at the moment, but we are interested and ready to support that when the time comes.
What about the pier in town, Kailua Bay?
Yeah, so that's one that came up recently too. We actually just hosted our quarterly hui meeting recently, and that was one of the things we were discussing is potential sites to expand to. And the Kailua Pier was the #1 thing that came up with the Kona region. And so our expansion is dependent on a couple things. It's really resource based, but assuming the money comes in to do it, that would be our next move in Kona, is expanding to Kailua, the pier there. The Department of Health, they test there too. So the Department of Health does have a site there. I believe it's a class 2, so I think they test maybe every 3 months or maybe never. But yeah, they have quite a few sites. It's just a matter of getting the test results in. So once we get over
test
there,
because it goes to beach there.
Yeah, that's a
Right.
very problematic place.
yeah.
Sewage comes in with it,
Yeah, I'm sure their circle would be very red, so.
Can you explain the red in your logo? That logo top right?
Up here,
So,
No, sorry.
our logo.
Yes.
This is our logo. This was developed, before I came on. It's a kind of Mauka to Makai.
Reef to ridge.
Right, so this is our little Mauna to Mauka symbol, and then we come all the way down to the ocean here.
Got it.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
can you explain more about what our government does with this data? You said you take your biannual reports, and where does it go? Who looks at it? What, if anything, has come out of the data so far that you've presented?
Right, yeah, so we kind of 2 parts with our data. On one hand, it's really meant to serve the communities that we test at, and so we hope to support them when they're doing coral restoration and kind of more on the groundwork like that. In terms of legislation and the government, like I mentioned, our big data handover is going to the Department of Health's integrated report, and that's kind of when they publish this report every 2 years to assess the water quality across the state. What we do personally with our data is we take our more small handouts, like the report card and the outreach engagement flyer, and we bring it to the Capitol every year with a list of bills that we support. And so one of the things we do is kind of blast out our bills when the time comes, when legislation comes, and we ask people to, submit testimony on behalf of the bills we're supporting, and we of course provide data to support that testimony. But yeah, we also bring it to the Capitol and just, present it to our legislators, our representatives that are in charge of these bills in hopes that they will get passed. And that is really just, they open the Capitol up and you go there and hand them the flyer, and sometimes you get to finance and they're like, and then we go back next year. So it's one of those things that, the quality assurance means the data is legitimate, and then how much attention is paid to it is kind of up to our representatives. we expand to a new site? Yeah, that's a great question. So, kind of our big trigger for expansion is community involvement. You'll never find us out somewhere just testing water quality. What triggers us going to a new site is having community engagement, some sort of need to fill. So it kind of varies region to region. For example, Kahilihili has quite a spread of different initiatives down there in terms of coral restoration and water quality and education. And so Kathleen Clark with the Kohala Center basically runs our water quality sampling down there with support from her volunteers. So I think that's typically like a 3 to 5 person team. In the case of Kealakekua Bay, we have the Koala Kealakekua Nui that kind of brought us into their community action plan. And that's quite a big group, you know, it's a few dozen people working between, you know, a half dozen different organizations, yeah, to support it, getting it up and going.
How often do you test the water?
Once a month. So we take samples at all of our regions every 4 weeks.
And your funding is grant?
Yes. Typically, yeah, we're publicly funded, and we're in the process of launching a sustainable fundraising campaign. And trying to pivot towards, you know, not the language we're going to use, but more of an adopt a beach style program. So we're hoping to, in the next couple of years, really empower local businesses to become involved with water quality and restoration by sponsoring the sampling at, you know, sites near them. So that's in the works, but yes, currently we are publicly funded, and of course, you know, it's a challenging time to be a conservation-based group or a nonprofit. So we'll hope to continue through these times.
And how many staff or people do you pay?
Right, yeah, so that's a great question, because our core team is relatively small. So there's Erica Perez, she's with Coral Reef Alliance. I can try to go all the way back here, but she's our program manager. And so she started this program in 2019, Coral Reef Alliance right here. And then there's me, I'm with Linker, and I'm the project coordinator, so I oversee a lot of the day-to-day. And then we have on contract one data manager who does our analysis, as well as our 2 regional coordinators. So that's going to be one regional coordinator, she does Hilo and South Kohala, and then our other regional coordinator, Kathleen Clark, does Kona. And then, you know, we contract out lab work, so they're also on people. But it's a relatively small group of people. Again, that's why we love and support our volunteers so much, because they really make it happen with the sampling and getting it all done.
What do you think is the likely outcome or projection of the cesspool problem in
Right.
Kona, in the whole western coast here?
Yeah, it's a tricky, it's a 8-headed beast, you know, it's a tricky thing to tackle. We of course had the bill come through recently, I think that was 2017, to get everyone converted to septic by 2050. There has been some kind of talk in the Capitol of maybe peeling that legislation back, but we're hopeful that, you know, that'll stick. But yeah, it's difficult right now, especially on the west side. We see a lot of multi-million-dollar developments coming up, and they don't update cesspool necessarily. So that's kind of our big push. And Erica Perez is really involved in the sanitation component of things, and she actually will be giving an update on the sanitation specifically in Puko at the next West Hawaii Fisheries Council meeting. And so I believe that's in November. I'll have to get a date for you guys. But that will have a lot more information on, you know, more localized targeted efforts in getting money and working with the Department of Health to start updating any priority 1 zones. So anyone who's like at sea level, is being targeted currently at this moment to convert off of their cesspool and onto septic.
But not all the people on the coast are priority 1.
Right, yeah, so, yeah, priority 1.
A lot of those lots are too small to play in the septic system.
Yeah, so that's kind of that unique situation in Pu'uko. They've actually been working, I mean, it's probably been like a decade now, to establish some sort of community wastewater system. I'm sorry, the acronym is escaping me, but that's essentially what it is, they were talking about trying to tap in maybe to the Mauna Lani's wastewater treatment plant, and I think in recent years they have settled on establishing a community, again, that's not the correct word, but they'll essentially be financing a wastewater treatment plant that they'll all be tapped into in that Pu'uko community. So that's one of the solutions for areas like that where an individual wastewater treatment system isn't feasible. It of course comes with its own set of challenges, getting everyone on board is a requirement for that, but it can be one of the barriers to communal-based wastewater treatments.
A septic system can cost more than a house.
Right, exactly, yeah. And a lot of people are, in multi-generational homes, inherited homes, and, $70,000 for a new septic system is not necessarily in the budget. So that's kind of where the sanitation support component comes in, with trying to make funds for this more accessible and understandable to the public, and also trying to increase the amount of funds coming in from the federal side of things through the Department of Health and being distributed to homeowners.
Is there anything about an anaerobic way of doing the vegetables so that it doesn't naturally? Or is it like that?
I definitely am not the cesspool sanitation system expert. So I'd really encourage anyone to tune into that West Hawaii Fisheries Council meeting, because Erica is so knowledgeable in all of that, and she definitely can give a really great update on the current sanitation infrastructure and updates that are happening.
I would imagine, I was looking at your maps of sampling locations and the other side as well, Hilo side. It seems like most of it is coastal, well, obviously it's coastal, but with the same situation, with the cold pond area, or you have septic that isn't up to par. Do you see similar results in both sides of the islands?
Right, yeah. We do. We see, each region kind of has its own unique characteristics, right? Hilo typically has a lot more freshwater input, and so that brings in a lot more nutrients from that groundwater. Hilo actually, we have some, I don't have a picture of the Hilo report card, but some of the results over there are a little counterintuitive, We see slightly better numbers for bacteria nutrients within the break wall, which is like blows everyone's mind. You would assume that that's
stagnant.
right, and so that's why the analysis is interesting to read through, because some of the results are a little counterintuitive, and then that kind of is where we start to tease out like these land-based impacts and how they're affecting our coastal water quality, because it's not always as straightforward as we'd expect it to be. We actually have some of the best coral growing now in Hilo, off of where the injector wastewater treatment is re-injected. There's that pipe that runs along the seafloor, right within the Hilo break wall, and at the moment it's one of the more healthy coral reefs in Hilo, which maybe it's just a very resilient strain, but it's not something we'd expect to see, so it's interesting.
No, it's toxic to one species can be bitter to another.
That's right.
Yeah. I'd love to get out there and dive. I've just seen videos, but it is really interesting. You know, they do those dye tracer studies, so you can see where the dye is coming out, and they've done a couple where you can see it coming out of the injectors, and it looks so wrong, but then there's this gorgeous coral reef growing around it, so.
Yeah, we did that study at Kahilihili. Well, we didn't, but it was done at Kahilihili. And that, seeing that
Yeah.
is such an impactful way to get the message across.
100%, yeah. So for anyone who's not familiar, they do dye tracer studies. I believe they've been done at all of our regions. Yeah, they have been done at all of our regions where we currently sample. So that's been supported by UHilo and a couple other groups. So this is kind of what it looks like. They essentially will put dye packs into the backs of some toilet bowls, and they'll time how long it takes to come out of the reef. And so this is a photo from one of those studies in Puako. And it was about, I think it was like half an hour. It was, you know.
It was less, wasn't it?
It was like, you know, by the time you flush the toilet and head down to the beach, it's caught up with you. So yeah, these are kind of, like Anne's saying, really, really powerful images, because you see just gorgeous clear water and you don't realize what's coming up from the ground. So this is all dye that came out of somebody's toilet bowl. It's one of those things where you're like, you know, we love the work, but it does ruin you, because it makes it a little harder to swim at some of our sites.
Compartmentalize.
You got to, right? Yeah. Sometimes I just go straight through this like coastal little freshwater area and try to get right to the salty water. You know?
We were in Key West, and you didn't need to do anything to know there was a problem.
Oh yeah,
I live out in the basin now.
That island was just a mangrove swamp.
right. Not a lot of circulation.
For instance, I went and I took pictures because the water was disgusting. And when they were developed, beautiful turquoise water. I think somebody fixed it on
Little Photoshop,
I think it's built into the film.
right? Filter. Yeah, I've never been over there, but that, yeah, they have a lot of similar challenges. I think with, you know, commercial boats and.
It's one of only two places I've ever been I would not want my face.
Wow.
You know, when the toilet's 3 inches above sea level, where do you think it goes?
Exactly. It's one of those things, out of sight, out of mind, right? You know, it's not right in our face all the time, so it's easy to ignore, but it is one of our top impacts to our coastal water quality, and of course, our coastal water quality goes hand in hand with the health of our coral reefs and all of our reef ecosystems, so it's not glamorous, but we try to make people think about it.
What is your background?
So I have a background, I'm a marine science student from UHilo, and then I have a background in fisheries science and fish biology. So I've spent a few years working with the Pacific Island Region Observer Program, which works a lot with the commercial longline fishery on Oahu, collecting data and managing federally and state protected species. And then I did a little switch over to outreach for a few years. So I also have a background in outreach with the Army Corps of Engineers. I don't know if anyone's familiar with the 3 R's program,
No.
but I was managing that program for them until I came on board with Wai Ola in 2023. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for making the drive over and your knowledge and sharing and
No, thank you guys. Thank you for coming out, and sorry to give you homework. Yes, you're gonna have to read some of our reports and think about data to find those trends that I know you're so itching to find out about.
right.
But
Thank you guys.